Hello everyone, welcome to the semi-regular Purple Penny coin and banknote news video. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. We've been here in Mawson Lakes for coming up to 5 years now, and we've been doing these videos for the last 3 years or so. We had a week off last week. We did end up going to Melbourne for a few days. And we did catch up with Peter, who's there in the comments. So it was great to see you, Peter. We had a good time in Melbourne. Snuck in a couple of coin shop visits while we were there. We went and saw Adam out at Southern Cross Coins at Nunawading. If you ever want to go and see Adam out there, he's got a lovely little shop, and it's right next to the train station, so it's quite easy to get to. And we stopped in and saw Max Stern, who are the last coin shop in the middle of Melbourne. But didn't spend a whole lot of time doing coin stuff when we were away. Back this week, running terribly behind this morning, Catherine and I, because of course there's a week's worth of phone calls and emails and orders and Facebook messages to catch up on. So no topic of the day today other than to just do a bit of a show and tell on some interesting things that are laying around the place. So we'll just say a few hellos. Hello Gary, Peter, Adam, Paul, Damien. Damien is the author of the Pirate Guide to Collecting Coins. There is a new edition of that book out. Greg, Gwen, Susan, Michelle, and John and Ray and Mariana. Hello everyone. Right, so we'll jump into the news. The Mint announced last week that there were some coin releases for November. Just general coin releases, not the investment releases that were released in the first week of November. They're due out on Thursday, and we do have our allocations for those, and they are very small. So the chances are we're only going to have them available here in the shop, if we have any at all. Do keep an eye on our Facebook page, and if you are one of the regulars that comes in here to the shop and there's something that you're interested in, just give us a yell. Now I will just pop up what they are. Looks like we're having a bit of a last hurrah for Queen Elizabeth. So we've got two releases for Queen Elizabeth. It's called the Queen Elizabeth II commemoration. There's a fine silver proof 50-cent coin for $135. Mintage for that is 7,500. There's a copper nickel version of the same coin. Mintage for that is 25,000. Cost is $15. And then we've got another one in the gold mini money series. So this one is an emu. Mintage of that is 5,000 and cost is 100. So they're due out on the 23rd of November at 8 AM, and as I said, supplies are extremely limited, and we're still finalising what we're going to do with the small allocation that we got. Right, there seems to be a bit of a competition on between various online media outlets to post up as many coin related stories as possible. And one of the outlets grabbed an article off of our coin website called the Australian Coin Collecting Blog about the 2005 Mob of Ruse errors, which if you've been in and around error collecting for a little while, you would know that the 2005 Mob of Ruse dollar coin appears from time to time either struck with a partial collar or struck out of collar or struck as a broad strike. They're often found in high grade. And Catherine and I have handled probably a dozen or 20 of those types of errors over the years, and the article that I read at least was surprisingly accurate, and I won't toot our own horn and say the reason why it was accurate is because whoever wrote it just copied our words pretty much word for word, and so the values went completely out of the ballpark. So you can see a couple of those errors there, both of them graded by PCGS. One of them is, I think one of them was graded 64 and one of them was 65. They sold for about $1,000 each in the last couple of years, and I feel like that is still about where the value of those things is. In high grade, they're probably worth $1,000 to $2,000. At the higher end, for MS66s and 67s, at the lower end for 64s and 65s. We have handled a couple of circulated examples of this type of error, and we got, mid to high hundreds for them, and they sell fairly quickly. They're pretty spectacular errors, and if you ever come in here to the shop and you see our posters up on the wall here, you will notice that we use one of those types of errors on our posters. So the journalist who wrote the article, they did the right thing by giving us credit for the images, giving us credit for the information, and by at least following our price guides for those coins, so not a bad effort there. Now, another item in the news this week was Jim Noble managed to get in the press for the next Noble's coin auction. Noble's is a auction house in Sydney. Jim Noble owns Noble's. It's an auction house that's been around for several decades, and they hold several big auctions every year. And this was a coin that I found interesting that was in the auction. It's a Chinese 3 mace and 6.5 candarines, which is 50 cents for the province of Kwangtung, dated 1889 and struck at the Heaton Mint in the UK. And what's interesting about it is when these coins were struck in the late 1800s, they were struck to replace foreign coins that were generally circulating in this Chinese province, and they actually struck them with slightly more silver in them than the foreign coins that they were going to replace. And because of that, when they were released in the circulation, most of them were seized and melted down straight away, and most of the mintage was held back and melted down as well. So they are a melt rarity, I would say you would call it. A melt rarity is a coin that has a decent mintage, but most of them have been minted and melted, and there aren't many left. And like most Chinese coins in high grade, they are highly sought after. This one is estimated to sell at $60,000 Australian at auction, and has already been bid up to $35,000 online. So pretty remarkable coin, very difficult to find. And again, an interesting bit of coin history there, the fact that they were minted too heavy and most of them were melted down. I do like my Roman coin finds, and there's a Roman colony of Claterni which is being excavated. Claterni is about 400 kilometres north of Rome, and it was a colony of the Romans just near Bologna, and the actual colony itself was there from about 400 BC to about 500 AD, and then it was abandoned. It's about a 44-acre site, and it's currently being excavated by the Italian Ministry of Culture, and they're digging up all sorts of coins and interesting things like that. And you can see there on the right hand side there's actually a carved green gem. I guess you would call that an intaglio, and there's been several dozen of those found there, and about 3,000 different coins, including that coin that you can see there, which is called a quinarius, dates about 97 BC and depicts a winged victory with Roma below. And what makes that interesting is that it shows you that this colony was a stop along a northern trade route from the city of Rome, and that coins did move from Rome up through the north of Italy even in 100 BC, so quite an early silver coin found in a defunct Roman colony. And the Italian Ministry of Culture has actually started calling it the Pompeii of the North for the amount of finds that are there, rather than the fact that it was destroyed by a volcano. Peter says he likes the term melt rarity. May he please borrow it? Yes, Peter, you may borrow it. It's not mine, though. I don't know where I've read that before, but it's certainly not a term that I invented. We'll just say a few more hellos here. Hello, Carolyn, Justin, Chris, Nelson, Cam, Ronalyn, Peter, another Peter, Jason, and Daryl. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. So, next item in the news is that the Royal Canadian Mint struck their first coins with the portrait of King Charles on them, and I did find this quite funny. This was a cartoon that appeared in the Canadian press, showing there Grandma on the left saying, "Look, kids, Charles is the third is now on coins, and of course the youngest generation on the right saying, who is Charles III, and the smallest boy there saying, what a coin. So interesting commentary there on the relevancy of the royal family in Canada and the relevancy of cash. So bit of coin humour there, and we'll just have a quick look at what the Canadians have done with their coins. So they've chosen to use a Canadian sculptor to create a portrait of Charles there. You can see he's facing left, and the portraits on Canadian coins have been done by Canadian sculptors since 1990, so this is actually the third Canadian sculptor in a row whose portraits have appeared on Canadian coins. The Unk set is now available on the Royal Canadian Mint website for $26.95 Canadian. It includes 6 different denominations, which you can see there. And interestingly, it's available in 50-cent rolls with special paper, and also boxed rolls of each denomination, so a box set of rolls of each denomination. So really nice looking product, the box roll set, and you might remember that our own mint did do that a few years ago. It's been several years since they've done it. I think perhaps 2016 was the first year that they did it, and they did it on and off for the next few years, and I don't think they've done it since 2019, so maybe it's something there for our mint to take some lead from the Royal Canadian Mint there. And if you're wondering, we still don't have any information about new mint or proof sets from our mint, so we don't know what's going on there. And then the last bit of news for the day was just a follow-up for a story that I did a couple of years ago about a couple who were renovating a kitchen in Yorkshire and found 260 gold coins under the floorboards in their kitchen in a clay cup. I guess here in Australia you might be lucky to find old newspapers under your floorboards, but they found 260 gold coins dating from 1610 to 1727. And the auction house that auctioned the coins actually traced the coins back to previous owners of the house, the Fernley Maesters family, who owned the house in the 1700s, and they were quite a prominent British family who were in Parliament, had members of Parliament, things like that, in the 1700s. And this group of coins was initially valued at about $350,000 worth. They ended up getting auctioned and fetched over $1 million at auction, so quite a remarkable find in your floorboards there. There's a big comment here. Susan says, I was given some old Roman coins from the area around Aquila, excavated in area in northern Italy on the Adriatic coast, when I was there this time last year. Maybe I should have brought them back with me. That's interesting. Yeah. Right, so no topic of today because I was running terribly late this morning, but we did get there in the end. So I thought I'd just do some show and tell of some things that we've bought over the last several weeks or when we were away. So first up here is, hopefully you can see that video there. This is a Peruvian 8 reals that we bought just last week. It's dated 1795, and it's got the MAE mint mark there, which is for Lima in Peru. And you can just see that it has a lot of luster and a lot of colour, and really just ticks every single box for a coin that I love to own. I've never seen an 8 reals this nice before. Unfortunately, it does have an old scratch down the portrait, but all is forgiven with the rest of the coin. So why is this coin significant, other than the fact that it's eye-bogglingly pretty? Of course, this was a proclamation coin. Being a coin that was listed by Governor Gidley King in the early 1800s for here in the colony of Australia. It was valued at 5 shillings, which was a bit more than what it was actually circulating for at the time, and just in an attempt to keep them in the colony of Australia. And it's sometimes quite colloquially known as a piece of 8. Yep, this is pirate money. So this is what the pirates used to circulate with and keep as treasure. And because it's 8 reals back in the day, people would actually cut them up to give them as change. So you'd cut them in half to give someone 4 reals change, or cut them into quarters. to give someone 2 reals change. And if you know your coin trivia, you would know that a $0.25 in America is sometimes called 2 bits, and that's because in the 1800s, if you paid for someone with 8 reals and you wanted some change, these were just valued at $1, they would cut 2 quarters out of it and give you 2 bits in change, and of course that's a quarter. So pretty remarkable coin there, and one that I might keep or I might not. So here's a regular photo of it, just to give you perhaps a better indication of the colour there. So you can see that the obverse has pretty bright colours. The reverse has sort of more subdued colours, but is a lot more lustrous. So the next coin I wanted to share with you is a really nice 20-cent error that came in last Saturday. It was received in change by the gentleman who sold it to us, believe it or not. It's a 1976 20 cent, and you can see at the bottom of the reverse there something odd is going on, and it's been struck through a it's a partial brockage indent. It's been struck through a fragment of a coin that was also struck, and if you look closely at the bottom there in the indented area, you'll actually see the shape of the queen's shoulder. So again, quite a remarkable coin, quite a remarkable error. It's actually a partial collar as well. It's probably uncirculated, I would say, and it's a type of error that we haven't seen here in the shop for quite a while. And for someone to have got it in their change is pretty incredible, and probably keep your eye out in ACR, because we'll probably write an article about this sometime next year. Right, next, believe it or not, same guy got this in his change. It's a $20 paper $20 note, a lobster, and the back of the note there has a pretty good wet ink transfer. And if you're wondering what a wet ink transfer is, I've been told that when notes go through each printing phase, because they don't have all the colours printed at once, each sheet of notes, after it's had one printing phase applied, has some tissue paper put on top of it before the next sheet of notes is put on top of that. And if that sheet of tissue paper isn't put in between the sheets of notes, then the wet ink from one sheet of notes can be transferred to the next sheet of notes, and that's why it's called a wet ink transfer. And if you look sort of up around the top left of that note there, you'll see a reverse 2O printed there. You'll also see some of the portrait from the front of the note present over the portrait of Hargraves there. So quite a nice little wet ink transfer note. And yeah, as Nelson says, how lucky is this guy? I think the best I've ever got in change was an upset Centenary of Federation $20. I've certainly never got a beautiful 20-cent error or a wet ink transfer note like this. So the last item I wanted to share today was Susan says, how can you be sure it's legit? I don't know, I've seen lots of them, Susan, and it's real. It's very difficult to fake, and basically impossible to fake a wet ink transfer note, I would have thought. I mean, it's not hugely valuable. It's worth a few $100s, and it would be a significant amount of effort to produce a good fake. I suspect that you would be better off trying to just fake real money and spend it rather than trying to fake an error. Right, the last thing I wanted to share with you today is something I guess that fits more into the ephemera side of things. And it's also interesting to me because I've never heard of these before, and we had 2 groups of them come in within 2 weeks here into the shop. So this is a souvenir that someone has bought from the Roman town of Bath in the UK. Bath being an old Roman town, there's obviously baths in Bath. And in the 1960s and 1970s, if you wanted to buy a souvenir at Bath, you could actually buy a real Roman coin. I suspect if you go there now, you could buy key rings and t-shirts and garbage like that. But in the 1960s and 70s, you could actually buy real Roman coins in attributed cards. And so we had a group of these come in about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the person didn't sell them. which is fine. I was really pleased to see them, but shocked me that the week later another one came in. I've never seen them before, never heard of them before, and this gentleman was super pleased to be able to sell this one to me, and I was super pleased to be able to buy it. So you can see there's a rectangular card with a typed up attribution of the coin that was within the card. And sorry, the pictures are too small for me to actually read them. Just give me 1 second. So what we've got is a what have we got here? We've got a denarius of sorry, it just disappeared. We got a denarius of Emperor Posthumus, and it was dug up in the UK from a hoard at Beachy Head. And as I said, this dates sometimes in the 1960s and 70s, and there's a little bit of a legend there about it. I'll just read it out to you. Posthumus commanded the Roman legions of the Rhine. With their support, he proclaimed himself emperor in the West, ruling Britain, France, and Spain firmly and wisely for almost a decade. He was murdered by his own men when he refused to allow them to loot the city of Mainz, which had supported a defeated rebel. So you can see the coin's in beautiful condition there. It's well struck on both sides, nicely toned, and comes with a beautiful little information card. And yeah, I'd love to be able to go and buy a souvenir like that from a place like Bath. Right, let's have a look at the comments here. That's it for this week. So we'll just have a look at some comments here. Sorry, I'm just going to get the right window up. Right, so Andy says the Quang Tung coin is interesting, but I don't think it's legit. Unfortunately, Chinese coins are just so dangerous, even with nobles. Must authenticate it if buying. And that's an interesting thing. PCGS is probably the world's leading coin grading service, third-party coin grading service, and they have different levels of service, economy, regular, things like that. Each one costs a different amount, and interestingly, they do have special rules in place for coins from certain countries. For example, Russia and China, coins cannot be submitted to PCGS from Russia or China on one of their economy levels of service. They have to be submitted under regular levels of service, and that means that PCGS charge you more to have those coins graded. Now, I suspect they also have experts in-house that specialise in Russian and Chinese coins. And why do they do that? It's because Russian and Chinese coins are counterfeited all the time. And when you can see a fairly innocuous little 50-cent piece like the one in the Nobles auction potentially being valued at $60,000 to $100,000, obviously it is well worth the effort of creating realistic counterfeits of those coins. And there are a lot of counterfeits around, and as such, what Andy is saying there is that he probably wouldn't buy that coin from Nobles if it wasn't authenticated by a third-party grading service. And he's just related a story to us there that he bought 8 Chinese coins from Nobles in the last auction, described as genuine, and PCGS only graded 4 of them. It's buyer beware. It is absolutely buyer beware when it comes to coins from certain countries. You really have to know what you're doing. And I will freely admit I don't know enough about Chinese coins to be able to buy them remotely. I certainly wouldn't buy an unauthenticated Chinese or Russian coin from an auction house. And Andy is just perhaps suggesting there that that's a lesson that he's learnt as well. I don't buy high grade coins from auction houses either without looking at them, because I've had too many bad experiences with coins described as a particular grade and they aren't when they arrive. So there is a strong argument for third party authentication and grading for coins, because PCGS doesn't care whether your coin is uncirculated or EF or real or fake. They just apply their standards to those coins as best they can. and they've got no skin in the game when it comes to selling them. So sorry to hear that you got your fingers burnt there, Andy. And Andy, it was great to meet you a few weeks ago in Sydney. Right, that's it for this week. Thank you everyone for watching and taking part. Next week will be the last Monday of the month, I believe. Hang on a sec. There's what a great question. Nelson, what a great question. If the auction house sells a coin and it's not authentic, do you have any right of refund? Now, I've sent coins back to auction houses before and got my money back, but I've also heard of other people trying to get their money back and failing to do so. I'm not sure where it stands in terms of consumer law with regards to selling fakes and things like that. I suspect they would have to give you their money back. But of course, many businesses will dig their heels in about things to try and avoid giving their money back. So Andy says that he got a refund because it's counterfeit. So that's good to hear, Andy. I'm pleased to hear that. I'm very pleased to hear that, Andy. I guess the trouble is, if you were to, for example, buy a coin from an auction house and then damage it or change it, then find out it's not genuine, then you might struggle to get your money back then. So if you are going to ask for your money back, you would do so as quickly as possible and don't fiddle with the coin or the banknote or whatever it is. I'm pleased to hear that you got your money back. Right, that's it for this week. Next week will be a Q&A session. It's the last Monday of the month. If you've got any questions, please save them up for next week or send us a message or an email or something, or give me a call. Bye for now. Have a great week. Happy collecting. It's good to be back, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.